Well, hello and happy early Thanksgiving, everyone. I'm Katie Juneau, and I am the general manager at Travelocity. We are so excited today to bring you a very special live event with mother, actress, and entrepreneur, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Earlier this fall, Travelocity surveyed hundreds of families for our 2020 holiday travel outlook to understand how they were feeling about the holiday season and travel this year. We heard from so many people that they were starting brand new Thanksgiving traditions, including hosting virtual happy hours and meals together. So we wanted to help you all get a head start with a travel-inspired menu from one of our favorite bakers and stars, Sarah. Wherever you are celebrating this week, whether it's at home or socially distant somewhere new, we hope you and yours have a safe and happy holiday season ahead. With that, I'd like to remind everyone to click and view today's demo on speaker view to ensure the best experience. And now I will pass the virtual mic over to Sarah to introduce two travel-inspired Thanksgiving dishes she'll be creating for us today.
Hi, everyone. This seems sort of very telling of 2020 that I'm doing this and I can't see any of you and I can't talk to any of you. But I think that it's really special that Travelocity is doing it. And I don't know if you can see in the background, but I have this friend of mine back there, the gnome. And for those of you who don't know about the Travelocity gnome in my household has like serious credentials. Like it's super important in my household. There, you get a better shot of this dude. So I love to travel. That's always been my passion. I love to see other cultures, how they live, what they eat specifically, because we all know that I love food, but just how they live their lives. And I think it all makes us better people to understand other cultures. And I love the show called The Amazing Race. And it's my dream one day to actually be on The Amazing Race. Although I don't know if I'd actually do very well and my ego might be too frail for that. Anyway, the Travelocity gnome is a big part of it. And one of the things that my husband and I really got the kids into was traveling and experiencing and The Amazing Race. And I don't hold a lot of coolness factor in my house. I know to some of you guys that might seem odd, but in my house, like my kids do not think I'm cool. But this dude has finally brought me actual street cred in my house. And so I've told the kids that due to quarantine and COVID in 2020, that our elves got quarantined and they can't quite make it. So instead, the gnome has come and the gnome is watching over everyone to see how they're doing and how they're behaving. And if all goes well, then in 2021, we can get back to traveling and going to the places that we love. So not only have I made a new friend, the only new friend that I made in quarantine, he's super quarantine safe, and best part, he agrees with everything I say. So it makes me like him even more. And so this is my friend, the gnome. Thank you, whoever, LOL, Vicky, thank you for that. This is sort of like somewhat Instagram. Wait, no, they do watch Buffy. I see that, but I'm still not that cool. The gnome actually has way better street cred in my house than Buffy. So unfortunately, that's the way it goes. So this year I know that Thanksgiving is going to look a lot different. And a lot of it is going to be this way virtually through the computer. And that's okay because it's about making connections. And in this day and age, we make connections differently than maybe we did years ago. And I'm getting to share this with you. So this is a recipe. It's from my book. And it's stuffing muffins. And what's great about stuffing muffins, first of all, COVID safe because they are individual. And so if you are an essential worker and you want to bring them to work, nobody touches them. They're super safe, easy to transport. So if you are traveling for the holiday, it also makes it easier because you're not bringing like a big vat of something that everyone has to go into. They are individual. And these really cute muffin liners I just found. Obviously you can do it just in the muffin tin, as you can see, or you can do it in a liner too if you don't like to do a lot of dishes, which is me, so I like to use liners. Okay, so we are going to start, here's the other best part about it. We are going to use old bread. And so one of the things in my house is we buy a lot of bread and a lot of times we don't get through it. And it's so frustrating because you have this great bread and you can't use it anymore. So best with this recipe, day old and 2 day old, don't tell my husband, maybe 3, because you want it to get a little bit harder. And so what I like to do is I like to break it up, or you can also do it whole. I like to put it in the oven for about an hour, maybe on 250, nothing too heavy. And again, everyone's ovens are different. And it's one of the things that I always say is people don't do, it's midnight, you're up at midnight? I don't even make it till 9:30 these days. Sorry, see, I get sidetracked. I'm very easily distracted. So I like to remind everyone to get their ovens calibrated, obviously not in COVID, but ovens all cook at different temperatures based on the oven and also based on the altitude of where you live, which is something that's interesting that I've only learned in the last couple of years. Anyway, so yes, squirrel, whoever wrote that, yes, that is me. There's like the squirrel going, or I like to say gnome going through. Anyway, so we take the bread, we bake it. When it comes out, we crumble it and we make breadcrumbs. See, and that is a great use of older bread. And then we are going to take the butter and we are going to melt the butter. The question is, where did I put my butter? Right here. We're gonna melt the butter on a medium-high heat. Can you guys still see me back here? Yes, okay. We're gonna do medium-high to melt the butter. You can just throw the whole stick in there. Sometimes I chop it up. And again, I'm gonna sort of go through it quickly because nobody wants to watch me bake old bread for an hour. And I don't know, maybe in COVID you actually do. Maybe that would be interesting these days to watch me bake bread for that amount of time, but I don't think so. Anyway, the other thing that I was saying about travel, and I was thinking a lot about this, is it's okay to have wanderlust right now. And it's gonna be very soon that we're gonna be able to travel and we're gonna be able to have this again. So one of the things that I've talked to my family a lot about is making plans for what we wanna do when this time ends and where we wanna go. And for us, we were supposed to go for spring break to Japan. My kids were super excited about it. And I really wanted to show them and experience their first time and this culture and this place that we love so much. And unfortunately, like a lot of things this year, it got canceled. And so for us, we keep talking about the things that we're gonna do when we do get to go and the places that we're gonna see. And we've learned recipes, we've watched virtual tours to get excited. So that's very cool. I'm watching all these like different times. It is still to me sometimes, and maybe I'm just old school, but it is amazing to me that I am checking my butter. It is amazing to me that we can connect like this in this day and age and be so connected to people we know, people we don't know, and still have these amazing experiences. So once the butter cooks, we are going to add some celery. We're gonna add our onions. Now, anyone knows about me, I love to cook, well actually no, let me rephrase that. I love to eat cooked onions. I have serious trouble with the smell of raw onions. So the only reason I'm not chopping them now is because you would all be watching me cry for an extended period of time. And it is also very odd to have full conversations with you guys and I can't actually talk to you. So that is. So once this cooks down, we're gonna add the celery and the onions and we're gonna cook it till they get soft. It's probably like about 8 minutes. So I'm gonna put that in now. And then I'm going to continue talking and explain the recipe and where the idea came from. It is exciting. I know I always say my butt is cute, but it makes a very bad window. So who is the better cook? That is a very easy question. I'm assuming you're asking who's the better cook in my household. And the answer is Freddie. And what's interesting about that is that my husband went to culinary school and he's really an amazing chef. And I grew up in New York City and I made reservations or I ordered in. And I never really learned to love cooking. And when we had kids, I realized that I was missing out on these incredible experiences of them discovering foods, experiencing, creating and all that. And so I learned to cook. And so my cooking, and probably maybe for a lot of you, is on a more rudimentary level, which is actually also good. And I shouldn't say rudimentary, but a similar, and one of the things I do a lot of is cooking for the kids. And what I realized is that when you cook for children, putting anything in a muffin tin, on a skewer, in a cupcake, or whatever that is, the more aesthetically pleasing it is, the more likely kids are going to like it and try it. And when you put kids in a situation of making their own food, they take an authority over it and they take pride and they're more likely to open up their palates. And that was something that was really important to us, was that our kids had this more developed palate because we love to eat and we want them to love to eat. In fact, little fact, get in there. So this week, my daughter tried uni for the first time, and I love pretty much all food. Uni is probably the only food that I don't love. I like it, I just don't have that like uni passion. My daughter went to town and ate us out of uni, so I think she might officially be a more seasoned taste buds than mine. So she's holding that over my head. Uni is a Japanese. It's a fish. And it is the, how do I describe this politely? It's like the foie gras of fish. Say politely, yes. So there you go. And, oh, wait, let's see. I'm trying to think. It's hard to love your question, so I'm trying to read, talk. Urchin is, anyway, it's very delicious, but it is a consistency issue for me, and it's just, yeah, it's not for me. You were Buffy for Halloween. That's a good costume. I tried that one year. Someone told me I wasn't the best Buffy they ever saw. So, okay. So once this cooks down, basically what we're gonna do then is we're gonna add a bunch of herbs. We're gonna add some, what do we have here? We have parsley, we have sage, we have thyme, and we're gonna add it all in with the cooked bread, and we're gonna really let it soak in and mix it together. Do I grow my own herbs? Is that what you said? I try. So I'm not, again, growing up in New York City, I didn't have the best, like I didn't have a garden or anything like that. And so I'm learning slowly, but a lot of herbs, what's so interesting is you can just grow them on a windowsill, in a can. And again, especially for kids, it really brings that all forward to them. When they can pick an herb, when they can put it in the dish, it really helps them try things. What wine do you and Shannon drink? Oh, good question. Goodness, I'm like looking for a bottle. Like, oh, I like a good Sancerre. I'm also a very big sake drinker. But I'm open. I love some Casamigos tequila. It really depends on what you're making and what you're eating and what it goes with. Okay, so again, not to bore you, I'm gonna let this cook down a little bit more, but then I'm gonna move on so that I don't. Am I boring anyone yet watching me stir? I'm trying to see what you guys are writing. It's kind of like, hi, not at all, thank you. Shannon and I are friendship goals. I have to agree. When did I first act? Well, probably when I was like 2 or 3 years old, trying to get something out of my parents would actually be the truth, because that's really how you learn. Have I ever read the Buffy comics? Of course I've read the Buffy comics. I'm trying to, okay, what else? Swans Crossing for Life. You go way back, and I appreciate that. Okay, so it probably hasn't been 8 minutes, but in the land of, wait, you're in Australia? That's amazing. That also, speaking of Australia, one of my favorite places to travel. And cool story about Australia. So when the millennium was happening in 2000, it's going way back, I was trying to think about where I wanted to spend it. And also in case the world was ending, because, you know, it could have been a possibility. And I decided to, oh, you know what I forgot to tell you guys is to preheat your ovens at 350. So I'm hoping that none of you are cooking along with me right now and you're listening and you're gonna make this later, because that would have been an important piece of information. Anyway, I decided to spend the holiday in Australia, and I traveled all over. I went all the way up north first and went scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef and slept in the rainforest and had this amazing trip. And then for New Year's Eve, I was invited to the Sydney Opera House, and I got to spend my millennium watching the fireworks and on the Sydney Harbor Bridge and from the Opera House and like a masked ball. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And then because Australia got it early, I got to have New Year's Eve first and then go home to my hotel and watch all of it then happen on TV. So it was like getting a lot of New Year's in 2000. Hi from Germany. This is actually pretty amazing, you guys. Greece. You guys are kind of blowing me away, and it's making my Thanksgiving. This is actually making me really emotional. Croatia, Brazil. When I travel, I love Spain. I went to Spain in, I want to say it was 2002, and traveled all over. And I absolutely, you guys, seriously, I'm going to start crying. I think that Algeria, my goodness. So this has been hard for me. This is the longest in my entire life I've ever not been on an airplane. I'm an extrovert. My husband's an introvert. And so I haven't gotten to spend as much time meeting people. And so for me to be able to spend this time virtually with you, it reminds me that there's all these incredible ways to be connected. Anyway, okay, I digress here. So we're gonna add in all of the herbs that I mentioned. Again, luckily for you, I already cut most of these. Dash of pepper. It's funny, for years I never salted anything because I was always very weary of how much salt to put in stuff until my husband explained to me that salt is for tasting and you don't have to worry so much about your sodium if you're just putting it in there. So, and then you really want to stir this up. You want to get all of the breadcrumbs to soak in the butter and the celery. And I wish you guys had smell-o-vision because actually it smells really, really, really good. Okay, so then, this is not talking, by the way, and doing all this at the same time is not my forte. Actually, and really toss this because you really want to cover the bread. It makes the bread softer. And then in a separate bowl, we are going to mix an egg. And by the way, here's another thing. My husband can crack an egg with one hand. I have not mastered that trick yet. I can juggle eggs. I won't do that now because I don't really want to clean them up. But I keep practicing, and it never really ends well. So I'm not going to try that right now. So move this over here. And I'm going to get my chicken broth. And I'm going to use about half of what I had, which I think was like 1 1/4 cups. And then I'm going to take my egg. The question, egg. I will not juggle. I will not crack. Then we're going to toss that. I grew up in New York City and always like just put them in the garbage cans because we didn't have disposals or anything like that. So force of habit. And then we're going to whisk. Then, where did I put my mixture? See? We're going to fold this in. This is actually a really cute idea too. I was telling you earlier that I like to use liners so I don't have to clean, but we found these really cute Thanksgiving ones to make it a little more festive. And then pour it in. Okay, this is pretty much it. We're gonna add the rest of the broth in a second. And then another little trick that I like to use, and this is a great trick for baking also, which is to use an ice cream scooper to take your mix, whether it's your baking, whether it's stuffing muffins, whatever it is you're putting, to get it into the liners. So trying to get in frame and this big. I feel like I'm doing like a little dance. You back there? You good back there? Know me? Call him Know Me. We have a shorthand these days. Wait, I lost. Okay, here we go. Questions. What is Freddie's specialty to cook? Oh goodness, he does a lot with a New Mexican flair. He grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so he does a lot with hatch chilies, which are really amazing. And we try to get them every year when it's hatch chili season, and we freeze them. You have to be very careful when you unfreeze them though, because it. Talk about onions making me cry. You can imagine what hatch chilies do. Okay, so then I was saying, you take the scooper and you can just scoop them in. I meant to show you how easy this is too. I found these really cute little covers that you just put on them like this. Pop it in, and it's decorative, festive, and really easy cleanup, and COVID safe. And then we're just eventually gonna dish them all into here. I will not make you guys watch me do this. Okay, then here's the trick when you're baking. So what you wanna do is you want to fill them up, not all the way to the top because you don't want them to overfill. And another great baking trick, if you have extra and you're on your second round, but it doesn't fill up all of your spots in your baking tray, fill them up with water because you want the heat to evenly distribute when you put it in the oven. And if you only have half a tray, it's not going to distribute that way. And then the other trick is you want to take some tin foil, and for the first, I would say, again, based on your oven, probably 20 minutes. What do I say? I say, yeah, 20 minutes. You want to cover it in foil when you put it in, just lightly, because you really want it to not get dry. And if you cook it uncooked, they're going to wind up very, very dry. So we cover them, and then after about 20 minutes, I like to take the tinfoil off, and then like another 10, 15 minutes or so, because you really want to get that crispy on top. And then after all that, voila, you have stuffing muffins. And then also really cool. So I made these 2 different ways earlier, getting ready for you guys. And so these are a cornbread version because we had friends one year traveling to us who are from the South. And because cornbread is such a big tradition, we wanted to see how we could welcome them into our traditional Thanksgiving and, you know, without planning an entire new menu. And we realized that this dish would be really easy to make with cornbread. And so we just switched it out. And there you go. And what's, like I said, what's really great about it is if your neighbor maybe can't go anywhere for Thanksgiving and you want to drop something off that's safe, if you want to drop it off at your fire station, or to your first responders. It's such an easy, safe gift where I think that people will get the sentiment and still feel really safe during this time. So that is that. I'm hungry now. I know, me too. I want to, you know what? Here's the best part too, is I actually can eat it. Yes, dropping off is a great idea. Or a lot of people, see, I also can't chew and talk at the same time because I was always told never to speak with my mouth full. Those are good. There's a lot of people that never get Thanksgiving off, and especially this year are not only going to not get the time off, but can't see the people that they love. That was not COVID safe. This is why I don't eat over food, by the way. Here's another thing. Once you finish cooking, don't leave it underneath you while you're talking. We're going to move it out of the way so that I can share those with my family. Do I have a cookbook for kids? Maybe one day I should, right? Spain, goodness, this is so many people. You guys, seriously, I know this year is hard, and I realize that this isn't going to look like the normal Thanksgiving that we have. But when you think about why we have Thanksgiving, it's about being grateful. And while this year was tough, we have a lot to be grateful for and a lot to plan for next year. So I feel good about it. It's going to look different, but I can't believe all these places where you got Philly, grateful for Buffy. Thank you. Me too. I would have to agree with you. Have I ever tried Brazilian food? Yes, I love Brazilian food. That is one of the places on my list that I have not been to that I really want to travel to. NorCal, there I have been. Mexico, hold on one second. I actually have lived in Mexico City for 3 months. Another one of my favorite places to travel. Dubai, another place I'm seeing you guys from. I have Texas. Yes, I've also had Texas barbecue. You guys are making me really want South Africa. South Africa I have not been to yet. The only place in Africa I've been to is Tanzania. And if you go to Africa and you don't leave a little piece of your heart, I can't even imagine. And I cannot wait until the day that I can take my kids to Africa and show them just the beauty and the people and all of it. People are asking Angel or Spike. Well, I mean, I have my own theories, but I kind of have to go with the boss, Stacey Abrams, these days. Have I tried Indian food? Of course. I love Indian food. Paris. I love Paris. Peru. I've been to Peru. Another on my bucket list had been to see Peru and Machu Picchu, and that was life-changing and one of the best experiences of my life. My totally favorite place I've traveled. That's like picking a child. No way. I would definitely say that Tanzania was one of the most special places I've been, but every time you go somewhere and you meet people and you see how other people live and what their lives are like, they all become my favorite. So kind of like picking a child. Come to Utah. I've been to Utah. I saw one of the most beautiful snowstorms I've ever seen actually in Utah. Why is my elf on the shelf quarantined? Well, you know, it's like they travel and they have to wait the 14 days. And so instead, we have this safe man that also loves to travel and has been totally COVID safe. And I don't get to meet a lot of people during this time. So we have some deep conversations, this dude and I. We look kind of cute together, right? Almost like being on The Amazing Race. We actually, the gnome has no mask. Yes, the gnome has been tested. Do not worry. My daughter's actually in the process of sewing a mask for him. But again, he has been with us. He's been quarantining with us. And he's super safe. You guys don't need to worry about him, even though he has traveled all over the world. That's an awesome gnome. I know. It's a really cool gnome. I'm telling you, I finally have like street cred in my house with the gnome. Have I been to Bakersfield, California? Well, yes, of course I have. Yes, I think the gnome looks very good too. I'm trying to think. Indiana, Sacramento. Do I speak another language? That's actually something that I wish I did. I speak a Skoshi, little of Japanese from being there for so long and loving it there and just picking it up when I'm there. So I understand more than I can converse, but I can order, and which is really most important, and I can shop. And I understand, I speak Spanish, not fluently, but I understand a lot of it. And I'm also learning English, so that's good. I'm working on it. Clearly, I've had a few ums in here, so probably could use some work too. What's crazy is I'm so technically illiterate that I only see the first part of your question. So when they're very long, I kind of miss them. Ireland, I have not been to. My husband has been there, and he said it's one of the most magical places that he's ever been. And so I'd love to, London, of course. I spent lots and lots of time in London, and I'm definitely an Anglophile. And that's also on the list of places that I really want to take my children to see and to visit. I'm currently binging The Crown, like probably everybody else in the world, which again, just brings us closer together. Have I traveled to Russia? I have not, but I took Russian in school. I don't remember much. I can still say the alphabet. Italy is amazing. Yes, I can eat my way through Italy. I've been all over, from Milan to Torino to Rome to Venice.
I just want to thank you, Sarah, for doing this. The Gnome loves many of the places that you've just highlighted as well. As a proud Texan, I was so happy to hear of the cornbread alteration that you put in for your dressing, and really happy that you and the Gnome have had the opportunity during COVID to grow closer together, as I hope many people have. And as a mother of two, I'm going to have to raise the bar on my cooking, so I've taken lots of notes as well. So if any of you, we want to thank you so much for attending. If you have friends or family members that weren't able to make it to the event, we'll be sharing a recording of this cooking demo tomorrow on the Travelocity blog and on our social channels, along with Sarah's recipes for the Staycation stuffing muffins. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Hope everyone stays well. Thank you all. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Be safe.